How did this film get on your radar? Are you a film buff? Do you look for films like this, or was there something that particularly piqued your interest about Under the Skin?
I saw this film in Los Angeles at a special screening kind of before it came out, and then when it came out, I went down the rabbit hole. I got a little obsessed with it. It was playing at the ArcLight, which in LA is kind of my local theater, and I would just be out like running errands during the day, and I would just kind of go into a fugue state and find myself back at the ArcLight. And so I just kept going alone during the day, and I ended up seeing it, I think I ended up seeing like 4 or 5 times in the theater just by myself. I just could not stop watching the film. And it also is one of those movies that transforms so much the more you watch it. It more than rewards more viewings, it actually transforms the more you view it, I think. So
were you aware of Jonathan Glazer's work before you saw it?
Oh my God, yeah, he was one of my favorites. Sexy Beast, but also Birth. I'm a big fan of the movie Birth. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous, and also obviously his music video work, is pretty tremendous, obviously.
So when did you find yourself becoming obsessed with Under the Skin?
Well, it was, the first time I saw it, the experience that kind of hit me was it seems like a very abstract movie. It seems like something that is very kind of stream of consciousness and kind of, okay, I'm going with the flow with this, and it's gorgeous, but I'm kind of drawn into it, but I don't know where it's going. Oh, this is where it's going. Oh, okay. And then on subsequent viewings, the thing that really hooked me and started fascinating me was how narratively tight it is. You realize, wow, it's like a Hollywood film in how tight the storytelling is, but it's purely visual storytelling. It's like a silent film. It's a different grammar than we're used to seeing in modern movies today, especially in science fiction films. But in that context, I realized every single shot and every moment of every shot tells the story and moves the story forward. There's not a frame of wasted film narratively in it, and that really got me excited, and that really is a big part of the reason I kept coming back to it.
And was it a particular scene that haunted you, or was it an accumulation of those images?
Well, that's the other thing, is because it's Glazer, every single scene has some kind of visual hook, whether it's obviously there's the scene on the beach, but then there's also, like, for instance, there's a scene that it wasn't until the third time I saw the movie that I realized what was happening in the scene where, and I'll try and do this without spoiling anything, where this won't spoil anything. She comes downstairs after one of her sessions upstairs, and there's a scene where she lingers at the bottom of the room and stares into what first looks like a mirror. You think she's looking at herself. And then it wasn't until the second or third time I watched it, I realized, oh, wait a minute. That's not a mirror, that's a window. And she's looking very literally through a porthole into the area that upstairs leads down into kind of the sinkhole. And she's staring at the guy that she just, I can't do this without spoiling it, I'm sorry, so I'll stop. But it was the fact that, wait a minute, this is incredibly literal. And in telling this literal story in this gorgeous, poetic, purely visual way, this is doing something that, I don't know, this film is really, for me, it is an all-timer. It's up there with just a couple modern movies that is kind of in the pantheon for me.
Well, how does it work in terms of, for you, in the technological aspect? Because that's something that's it's a film that's not afraid to be kind of ugly when it needs to be. There's some beautiful sort of the more traditional science fiction shots, but some of the stuff on the stuff on the streets of Glasgow is very harsh. I wonder, as a filmmaker, what do you see about, what would you like to say about Glazer's technique in this film?
Well, I don't know. I find it all really beautiful. I think it's even the more documentary style stuff on the streets. And I don't know if you probably read something about like the way he made it, where he actually had, like when she's driving it around in the van, they developed this very tiny camera that they actually had like 8 of them implanted in the van. So that was all shot in real time. And a lot of the interactions she has, it was actually the actress, Scarlett Johansson, just pulling over and interacting with people. It was real life stuff. So and that's fascinating. That's extraordinary. But for me, ultimately, it's ultimately to me the the real miracle of it, like if I, like the editing of this film is amazing to me. Like the fact again that it's that they took all that footage of all that stuff. It's almost like a documentary film, and the way that is incredible. That you can gather all this footage and then write it by assembling it into something where every beat moves it forward a little bit more.
And what is it particular about the editing?
Well, just exactly that that they had hours and hours of footage, and yet, and the more and I might just have lost my mind a little from watching it so much, but the more that you watch it, literally every single shot, you're like, oh, and then she discovers this, oh, but then she thinks this, oh, and then it really becomes as if you're hearing the next line of a very linear, literal narrative told in your head through the cutting, and the fact that can be made clear through these images and through these images that were gathered in such a documentary style way. I just find it extraordinary.
And how did the other people in the audience sort of experience it? Was that something that you noticed, or were you too wrapped up in your own experience?
I think that's also why I really enjoyed watching it by myself. Is it's kind of one of those. I don't know if you guys have movies like this where you almost don't. They're so precious to you that you don't want to get the lobby chatter afterwards, where it kind of hurts when you go in the lobby and like you want to. It's that same awful instinct when you see an opinion you agree with online, and your first instinct is like, nah, you have that kind of like, you care about something so deeply, you want to protect it. So I don't know. I know at the same time, it's also one of those movies where, like anything that's really bold and exciting and new, you understand if people see it and have a reaction of, you to this. It does take work to get into, it is something that, it's not like I think, if someone is not into it or doesn't have a good experience watching it, I actually weirdly understand that also, but that's what the best movies are, I think.
Well, is it when you see a movie, is there a particular experience you're looking for? Is that what you want from a film?
No, just exactly what this does, to be surprised, to be knocked on we all want to be knocked on our asses, right? We all want to see something we've never seen before, and again, I think that's what got me so excited about this.
How many times in your life can you say you were knocked out by seeing a movie?
Oh, Jesus, I don't know. I'm knocked out every time I see you, Damon. That's all that matters. But modern film, I can't count them on one hand, There Will Be Blood, The Master, Tree of Life. There's only a couple of movies that for me had this kind of, but this was actually very different, because I don't know if I've ever experienced a film where it's changed so much over the course of getting to know it as this movie. So this is very unique in that regard.
As a filmmaker, is it still possible to kind of get lost in a movie?
Oh my God, yeah, no, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so you never find yourself thinking, well, this is this lens, this is that camera, this is...
Only if it's a movie I'm not into, or the other thing is, and those of you who are filmmakers, I don't know if you can relate to this, if you're in the middle of shooting something and you watch a movie, there's this weird thing that's switched in your brain where all you can see is where they laid the dolly track or where they put the lights. But other than that, no, if it starts up, you're just, into it.
Now you've made, you are a particular fan of genre films, I think it's fair to say, in terms of what you've made. Your films to date have all, they're not the same genre, but they're a mix of genres. Is there something about genre films that you're drawn to, and how does this fit into that world?
I'm not saying anything new. It lets you take a look at very human, very recognizable situations and blow them up into something larger than life in a way that makes you re-examine them. And I think in a nutshell, that's what I like about genre. Like with the last film I made, Looper, like because it's a time travel thing, you have a younger and an older version of the same guy, but basically they're having a father-son conversation. I'm not going to turn into you. But using genre and sci-fi and this kind of dumb premise of time travel, you can actually elevate that to where you have to reprocess it as an audience. And with this, it's the exact same thing, where it's an incredibly potent and recognizable emotions, the emotional elements of alienation and feeling like you're, lost in the world, and feeling all these things that couldn't be more immediate and more human. But because it's in the context of this science fiction story, you have to go through them in a different way in your head, and that makes you think about them a different way. I don't know. That's but yeah, that's probably part of why I love sci-fi and I love genre.
And something we haven't really talked about so far is the music. How is that a part of the experience?
Oh, it's extraordinary. I mean, the score is just amazing. It's Micah Levy, I think, did the score, and she's, oh my God, Jesus, the score is just absolutely. That's the other reason I recently got the movie on iTunes, and I started watching it, and I kind of realized this is a movie I only want to see in the theater, which is another reason I'm so excited to see it here. Any minute now, I promise. Yeah,
we can do a few more minutes.
Oh.
No pressure.
I apologize.
But music is an important part of your own films.
Nah. It is? Yeah. No. My cousin Nathan Johnson does the music for my movies, and that's the other thing that's exciting about this score is you can tell that they something that is so fun in terms of the process with Nathan is just starting fresh on something and throwing out all the rules and saying what can we do to really surprise ourselves with this. And from the very first scene of this, the score in it shocks you. And it's just it just immediately pulls you into the weirdness of it, and yet it also connects on. It connects the same way that in the same way it engages you in the same way that a traditional Hollywood score would. Also, it rides that line. But it's an extraordinary score. They've done a series of screenings I know where they've played the score live, where she's actually conducted the score live, and I didn't get to go to any of them, but that must have been amazing.
Is that something that appeals to you with your own films? I
don't know. That seems very strange. I'd be curious to see how they actually do it. I don't know how they actually technically pull it off, whether they do it without I don't know. It sounds cool though.
So, 4 viewings, a little glimpse on iTunes. What do you take away from this film? What do you think? Why do you think it's lasted with you so long? What does it have?
I don't know. That's why we're watching it again to try and find out. Maybe we'll figure that out tonight.